Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
First of all, I will be discussing today about how the competition review process looks like, right? How the competition review process template is created, right? And how it looks like on how we set up things. What is the impact of the currency and the various merit plan, bonus plan, right? How the scorecard that we are here to talk about, right? And apart from that, you mentioned about competition grid. All those items will come into picture. Yes, I got it. Normally, whenever we set up the competition review process right, this is mainly. Did we cover a bonus plan integration like eligibility, earnings override, and EIBs? EIBs, I've already briefed you. Right in the last session, I think we talked about like how, and I told you to look into your system. And also the bonus plans. With scorecard, did we complete that? Scorecard. We'll be discussing over this session or will be next session. After that, you will automatically get right talking about how that normally gets linked with the scorecard plan. And we haven't completed deferred compensation, also deferred plans. Which plan you said? Deferred plans. That is also pending. Let's get back to this. This is something like this is something like when the employee got their rating during the time of the rating. Whatever that is going to get changed. For example, if the manager is rating a person 5 and later, he wants to do a correction in the system after he is done. How am I going to do for him as an administrator? Can you repeat it again? If this is something like a manager going to rate a person on their performance and he wants to implement some changes. As a compensation, changes in his rating or he wants to adjust his rating. You are talking about employee from employee perspective or from the manager perspective. From the manager perspective I'm just asking, is this session is all about the compensation review process is after the post rating period in case of any changes or corrections to be made by the manager. Usually they reach out to us because they cannot do it. The system gets closed and it is me as a compensation manager. I'll be doing the adjustments on their behalf like a system administrator. At the same time, I will also able to correct if any manager did something like, for example, they have rated exceptional performer, but they have just given them money. 2% of increment, which is unusual. I make the corrections as an override right in the system. This is all the process about that. I'm going to learn like how I'm going to do those. Normally what I will do is, first of all, I will brief you about the compensation review process, how things work. Alright. After that, normally in competition, we discuss about a response to crisis, right? The scenarios that you are mentioning about. I have a request. I just saw the previous videos. We're talking about when we initiate the compensation review process. Right. This process is linked with the business process. The business process, they also remain same. Like for example, initiate compensation review process. I will try to initiate in this right, but not sure as this is a practice tenant. I will try to initiate for some group of people and I will try to show you like how things works. This is the default definition for the competition review process that I have opened. If you look into the steps right, normally if you want to know like who all can start the review process. Normally when you expand the security group, whichever security group will be assigned over here and with respect to all the security groups, whichever employees will be linked, they will be only able to initiate the review process. Like for example, here we have the competition admin, people data administrator. This group of people, entire compound band and P&O team will be administrating it. Normally, as this is a practice tenant, 1 second, as this is a practice tenant, maybe some unwanted security groups you can see, but talking about in the ITN scenario to be mainly the competition ad, probably from the HR operations admin, something like that. You are asking something? In case that is like people who are initiating the process. We are the process owner and we are going to enable the process to our managers who will be rating. What is a step routing restricted access about? Can you please help me explain that? See, talking about, you're asking like, you're saying like this will be initiated by the managers. No. I am very aware that this is initiated by HR team. I'm just an initiator, but running the torches by the manager. Where will they be included in this business process definition? That's my question. It's completely up to you or your management, right? Wherever they want to get them included, they can include it. There is no such restrictions. I have a question. Just because I'm an initiator, I'm a HR, you are a manager. You're going to rate for your team. Let's keep this in our way. I'm an initiator and this is my business process. I have defined and I have not included you in any of the business process above. Can you please scroll up? I meant to say I have not included in the initiating security groups or the step routing restricted security groups. But as a manager, will you still be able to access and rate your employees using this process? No, if you're not included, how the manager will be able to do that? It's not possible, right? I'm confused. My question is, as a manager, you will be rating the employee with a performance rating. You will be if you're having 3. Once we were talking about performance rating, my question 1 second. You are talking about performance rating, right? Performance rating works with another business process. That's my question. Let me show you that I understood like what routing restriction you're talking about. That's what was questioned by me because I am not. I am as an admin problem. I got to understand like this is my admin process, but I wanted to see how you will be able to see as a manager. I have 2 routing barriers. Got my question. You're talking about the performance review, right? The performance review. Again, it's completely up to us, like how we want to set it up. If you can see right, someone will be initiating right after that, get additional manager evaluation complete, like exactly. Get additional reviewers, complete manager evaluation. This is not the standard process. I will tell you, like now, how normally it works in company. Normally, once the performance review gets initiated, right? After that, it goes to the worker. employer for completing the self-evaluation. Once that is completed, after that it goes to the complete manager evaluation to the manager. Absolute. After the manager and some companies, what they do is it goes to the manager's manager as well. I'd like the skip manager approval process. Absolutely. Normally you will not see again here. There is another B interlinked named as complete manager evaluation. Can you see this complete manager evaluation for performance review? Someone has made many changes. I'm just opening it for a random. Here they have hard stop at the manager level. If in case I want to add an approval step, like once the manager has given the grading right, it should go to an approval to the manager's manager. I can add a step here. As an approval, I can assign it to manager's manager. Like normally how we will do that is, I will edit this process. Talking about the business process changes. It is effective as of real time. You cannot make any changes in the past. That's the limitation with respect to business process. You told me, like you cannot, you have rescind and cancel. Not too late. Approve it. I can set it up to you guys. Manage. Here, I cannot see that security group. The reason there's about practice to know because we have to give. Let me show you. I might not have access, but I can show you like why it is not reflecting here and how it can reflect. Normally, you have to make changes to the security policies right now. Within this process, manager's manager does not have access for approval. Normally what we do is we go to the related actions or the business process. Here we have business process policy, here only have view option. Normally, if you will have the security access here at the below, there will be an edit action. Normally here you can see there are multiple options who can start the business process. Like complete manager evaluation. Like this, people will be only able to complete the manager evaluation. I'm talking about approval right. If you scroll down here in the approved section, you can see only those two security groups are there. That's why when I'm trying to add up the approval, only these two security groups are coming. Jam Tesla manager and manager, right. There's two in the approved section. I have to add here manager's manager, security group. Once I add that, it will reflect here and I can add it over here. After that, my approval step will go to the manager's manager. Got. Talking about performance review perspective, mainly it goes to the employee. After employee goes to the manager. After manager, it goes to the manager's manager. After that, normally in companies, they have a two-step where there is a one-on-one meeting. That is supposed to be set up by the manager with the employee. This is what I have. In many companies, they will not have every performance process linked. They will be having their performance management. For example, in my company, they have something called LeapSum to track their performance and track their evaluation. What did you say? What do they have? LeapSum. LeapSum to do this performance reviews and everything. Manager, you will just set my OKRs and at the start of the quarter, and you will be reviewing, and you can give me any notes or any additional thing. It gets tracked. In the leap sum for me, right from the giant till December, what I've been doing. It is just like a clear thing. And in Germany, we have something called probation. Irrespective of the experience, you have right. If you join a company, the first 6 months will be a probation, and if you didn't pass, you will be sent out. That is by default. Any empty number of jobs you skip, your first 6 months is a probationary period. Even the probationary for the first 6 months, the probationary track, and we will do something called a 3U60 evaluation. Not just by the manager, but from their manager, but from the employees, colleagues and employees, close sparring partners who the employee works with. They also assess whether this person is fit or not. In such case, leap sum is one of the very frequently used tool in Germany just to gauge the employee's performance in every random situations on every quarter or every week. We are every monthly based on the frequency. And my question is, can it be interlinked? Just like how I do the share works with thing. If I interlink the API tool with Workday, will Workday able to pull out the data from LeapSum directly? If you are able to do the integration part through the API, it should be able to do that. That I need to seek the Workday administrator support, right? I will not be able to do that by my own, but my integration able to do it. Mainly in this scenario, your integration team can help. Normally, what mainly integration does is like whatever outputs from the third party tool that you want in Workday, right? There are fields that is set up or built in within Workday. And that's where those fields will come to the API integration that they set up. Because maybe normally what happens is like, and the third party, they may have different normal feature, or they may have different fields, right? With different feelings in Workday. They might not. There might not be the same feelings. It will be something else. They link it. That we can have the desired ones. The collective additional question is, in certain cases, we will not be able to. We are not ready for integrating the two API. That is the LeapSum I with Workday. We wanted to download the data from the LeapSum and export and import the data in Workday through the EIB module. Like an inbound, like an outbound, EIB. Where we wanted to do, or more like I will say like that is an inbound EIB. That's what you taught me. If I wanted to pull down the report from LeapSum and upload it in Workday, that's it. Got? Normally see. This is something which for this scenario, I would say it's better to set up the integration part, right? Because doing it manually from the perspective that you are saying, right, it will be lengthy and difficult. And this is something which you will wish to have on a frequently basis, or on an annual basis, or on a maybe quarterly basis. Every probation, because 6 months process is like every new joinee joins the company. It is like a completed annual process for me. And after all 6 months, not everybody gets an annual duration. This is something more like can HR people process whether the person is performing or not. I'm not coming here, but my area of work comes when the employee is given a raise within 6 months, right? I need that to be recorded. In LeapSum, not just the performance is getting ditched. There is also a section called compensation based on your merit. It's just like how we do merit metrics, right? For example, if you are rated 3% the system will calibrate it to the 3% of merit increase, right? Just like a random example. Similarly, it does in leap sum also. Based on your performance, the system itself auto-converts within the performance range with this particular rating, how much the merit you should be getting. When we calibrate the fields already, and it auto-calibrates it by default when we just add it. And it also auto-defaultly corrects and rates the rating out of 7 where the employee lies in their performance, and give the compensation calibration like that. In such case, integration will not be helpful. At the same time, I have to use this inbound EAB. I'm asking like how we are going to do such a rating thing, because my find should be 3 things. Why this person was given a range of increase within this particular frequency time or within this particular tenure, and what's the last during the frequency of the tenure, what was the percentage of increase he was given. Where does his current compare ratio lies and what is his current skill set. You remember, we do a pricing for hot jobs in market pricing. We all did pricing hot jobs. Hot jobs is like in this particular annual based on the salary survey report. By that we receive for our organization at the start of the year, right? By party, like Anna or Willie, Starbucks, Watson or Mercer, we will be notified like, hey, these guys are your hot jobs. And also we internally take our attrition manual saying like how many skill sets, how many people at a particular skill or particular job position has resigned. Based on that we calibrated, and we do revision in the salary pricing like market pricing for those particular jobs alone. We don't run job pricing for everybody every annual. That is something we do. In such cases, how we are going to make it more like automated inverting. That's also I wanted to. Let me first of all brief you about the rating that you mentioned about with respect to the inbound one, right? Can you see my screen? I can see you. This is the EAB that you have, right? For updating the employer review rating. From the third party to whatever you have. If you want to do it manually, you have to get this field right. Like this is the spreadsheet keys, nothing but the serial number, update employee review, ID. That's the employee ID, right? No, this is employee review ID. For every employee, if you go and if normally, if you want to check. For example, employer review. You will get the employee review ID, right? But you can see for all the different workers, right? There are total 833 workers. I love know that I can see, right? You will get this reference ID value, right? For here, what they have done is, there is no such reference ID value, right? Let me look into the integration ID. You will give the reference ID. Integration ID. you have this and the EIB. You have this option, right? You can choose it from here, Employee Review ID or YD. You can use this ID for the respective workers. You can export this in the Excel and you can segregate it in whichever way you want. And you can get this added over here. After that, again, this is text is something optional. Review rating. ID like whatever rating you're going to provide, right? For all rating, there will be different IDs. Like for average performance, there will be different ID, right? Likewise, there will be different IDs. Again, you can search that again with the same view, Ref ID options. First of all, always search with reference ID if in case you are not able to find, because around 70-80% things are available within the reference ID itself. If in case that is not available there, then you can go with the integration IDs. The business object will be the, for example, if it's 2006 performance review is the template, it's a Norman. It's a Norman pleasure that we are using. We will search with the instance with the same like 2006. And it'll along with that. It'll also end with the employee's name at the end. For example, 2006 performance appraisal is your Norman pleasure for your template. You will type, it will pull out everybody who are eligible for the 2006 performance review by default by the system. And it will also pop up the reference IDs and the reference ID values and the Workday IDs. You will always go with the ID values, right? Like for example, unsatisfactory does this but needs improvement does this. You have an option. You can change this ID for your convenience as well, right? Edit ref. Why it is all, for example, for unsatisfactory, it's unsatisfactory, but other things it is 672.5. Why it is not? We have an option, right? Normally when I do write, what I do is I edit the reference ID. And I will tell you like how normally I do, because that is easy and easier to fill in the EIB that we have. Edit reference ID. But you have to always keep in mind about one thing. The first one is a version 39.2. Normally what we do is like, for example, it's satisfactory, right? I will make the reference ID as satisfactory only. But we have to make sure like it's case sensitive, right? It should be same as it is, whatever we are copying. Some of the items are case sensitive. Some of them are not, but again, it's better to keep in mind about one thing. Assuming like we are using the same way, whatever is available in reference IDs. For example, if satisfactory, if the S starts with the cap, it should be a cap, right? What will happen is when you are going to load it, right? It will give you an error. What is the portion where we can do it without a case sensitive? Like in EIB, there are really multiple options, right? Like for example, comment section. This option, the ones that we have right, that doesn't matter. And specifically, if I talk about the IDs, right, it's always good to have it or treat them as a case sensitive. And apart from that, there is one more thing that to keep in mind with respect to EIB says we use different formulas, right? For getting the data populated in the EIB, we have to make sure like those formulas are not available there. We should, after we populate the data, we should delete the formula that we have used for that. Or else it will give us an error when we are going to load it into the system. For example, you meant to say if I'm doing I did some right or anything right. Or I tried, I merged a couple of data and got. This is the data that we pull out from Workday and put it in the template. Right. Then why would there be a formula incorporated? When I'm pulling the data, multiple scenarios in multiple scenarios, what happens? I'm not talking about this one, right? I'm giving overall idea about the EIB is not really what happens in EIBs. Let's take an example. I have, because you might say I'm maintaining a separate Excel which is not loaded. In birthday such case, I will be having some formulas. For example, if I'm doing a merit rating, I have a compare ratio formula in that. I have to remove the formula and upload it. Otherwise, the system will put it as error. Got. That is a few things. And apart from that, whenever you get an error, right now you have access to Workday community, right? You can search for the respect. You can just copy paste those error in the Workday community and it give you the remedy like what exactly is supposed to be done by you or what mistake you are doing. Accordingly, you can update and get the error sorted. It'd be great if you have something like you have maintained, like an Excel or something like what are the prompts that I can use on Workday community. I can just use it. Use those related to that because Workday and community is similar to the way we use Google for getting our queries answered right. One of the easiest ways, if you have any specific error, just copy paste that in the Workday community, it will give you. Otherwise, let's take an example. You have some scenarios, right? Whenever you are having any scenarios and you want to search it like, let's take an example. Oh, for example, if I'm using Google Sheets, right? For Google Sheets, there will be multiple functions apart from Excel functions, right? Excel, what Google Sheet does is it defaultly gives us a prompt, a sheet like all the functions available in Google Sheet. And it will give you a scenario like on what basis you can use a sum or some mix. And it has a health history. When I go back to that, I say like fine. I get details of all the Excel functions. That is a Google Sheet functions that I can apply as a form. Likewise, does the Workday community also have such a PDF kind of document where I can go as a ready repository or just instead of going on? Actually, there are some right. Like if you talk about calculated fields, right? Or if you talk about related to respective VIBs. There are some, but it's not that convenient. They are available like the way you are referring, right? Because talking about the content, there are much of content that is available in Workday community. And one of the most challenging part with Workday community is, right, the way we search. Always do one thing slowly and gradually. Once you start using community, you will have a better idea. Try to understand like if in case anyone, any other consultant or anyone like you who might have come across similar issues, what or in which way he might have written the query or subject line. You should always think from that perspective because it always searched from the subject line perspective. typical, like how we do it in when we do a lot prompting, we get the exact answer, because doesn't give an amazing answer when we just put a normal prompt, but we put the exact prompt of what we require with the requirement. It gives you a history of it. Similar works on the Workday. Normally you can review right. They are talking about Workday committee, almost not everything but related to issues or anything. 80 to 90% things are available there. If in case there is anything, any new feature or anything that is coming up, that is also available. Do we have a Workday? Do we have a Workday community Slack option also? Like a Slack channel? We don't have a Slack channel. No, we do not have it. I'm talking about Workday community. The other part is whether you are whether you're having the Workday community access because of as a pro user or as a Workday partner user. You have an option. You can post your queries. And most it will be around 80 to 90%. Chances are there that you'll get some response, and some scenarios you will not get, but in most of the scenarios you will have your response. Related to any issues or any help that you need with respect to Workday. Because I haven't explored that really well, and maybe I said because as you have the Workday community access, right, that is something that you can explore and dig in. You'll have better idea, because in Workday mainly what happens is many of them get stuck, right? Because there are many things that comes up and the features and everything, right? Normally we do the same thing, right? We got stuck anywhere. We are try to search in the Workday community first. If in case that is available, we take that as a reference and we work on it accordingly. If in case something that is not available and that scenario, normally what we do is we post our queries. And maybe we also have an option, right? If in case, like mainly, we respond many queries, like there are many queries that comes into picture, right? We respond to them. If in case my answer is most accurate, or we get points as well. There are many pro users, right? I forgot the name, what they're called, right? Who are pretty much frequent, right? And some scenarios. What happens if in case any normal consultant is not responding, right? Workday employees, right? Who are probably working on those specific models. They respond in some scenarios because they have some point system that they have set up for their internal employees and for external employees as well, and that is a good way for marketing their profile. Like if in case I'm having good points like around, I have that option in my company also, when usually we don't involve the support team. Instead of having a support team's cost, we put it on the developer itself. We call it as like oh my god, the firefighter. They will do the firefighting during the production downtime. And the person who develops the product, they themselves will answer, rather getting into a support team and waiting for the support team to answer. It's more like a firefighting club. And just one more thing, whenever you load the AIB, right? I'm not sure whether I'm briefly last time or not. The thing is like you went back to that data, right? This is what you wanted to, that is the AIB tracker, right? You have not completed the employee performance review rating. This is the employee performance review rating, right? What you wanted to teach me today? No, we came back to this, right? That's the reason you asked me about the performance rating, right? That's why I came back to that. Mainly talking about this competition review process, right? You can see here there are different stages, right? That is set up here. Like first of all, you can see all these tasks being diverted to compensation admin because he will be done. Actually, we will be taking the entire process. related to performance. It's up to company, like in some companies. If in case it's a very big company, normally they are separate competition admin. In some scenarios, HR person takes care, right? It depends if in case it's a HR person, there will be some respective security which should be set up. Like for example, there are multiple different steps, right? Like manage impacted employees, configure pools, distribute pools, launch employee compensation review award, complete employee awards, release compensation review statements. These are standardized steps within the initiate performance, initiate compensation review process. But talking about how this will run, what content is going to be available within the performance review? That is something which is decided or defined with any compensation. She did the compensation. Review process. First of all, before getting into the competition review process, right, we have to define the competition review template. Like for example, let's just talk about merit. This is something that is like the 2024 merit process kind of thing. That's like the merit. Talking about here, you will have an auction drive. Like what are mainly you want to see during the competition review process. Like for example, they have defined this as a name as a merit global support. Like for global support, this is the merit a template that they are defined like. The template kicks off on a consolidated. It consists of all this for all the employees within the global support. This template is not specific for all the employees. This is for only those employees who belongs to the organization or belongs to the global support supervisor organization. For example, I can do like Merit India or Merit Germany, and it will pull out the data only for that particular country's employees. If in case within this merit process, if you want to include lump sum, you have to mention it as yes. Include additional investment, yes. Include promotions, yes. If you want to exclude anything, you have to highlight here, right? Even in case you do not want to include lump sum here, you will mention it as no. That will not come into picture when the competition review process is running. If in case you do not want to, or let's take an example for this year, there is no promotion like that is going, we can mention this as no, there will be no promotion. That will be coming into picture. After that, here we have process name, right? Like if in case there is a specific process name that we have to or that we want to define here, we can mention it. After that, effective rate, like since when this is effective, talking about the template that we have, right? Since when this is going to be effective, talking about process period ending, talking about this entire process that we are talking about. Compensation review process, right? Like when that is going to end. They are ending it on 11/30/2020. And talking about this organization, snapshot. What is the meaning of this? This is again a date, which at the organization level, what is the date that I want to mention, or that this is nothing but again the effective date. Talking about employee visibility date. Whatever is going on or whatever is happening with respect to the competition review process, right? from when the employer should be able to see that. Normally, this is something which is at a later rate. Currency rate type. If in case there is any currency rate type that we have right, or we can define that reference currency. Similarly, we have here grid configuration, grid profile configuration. This is something which we will discuss in tomorrow's session. Like how this is set up. I have a question here. Let me get into one thing. In this compensation review template, right? Value setup, we are having, for example, based on a balanced scorecard and individual country performances, right? Sometimes the merit rating percentage also varies. While you put the currency rate type, I also want to put wants the system to default pool only 3% of merit max for India. And for example, 5% merit max for Germany. The system needs to pull that particular plans. How it will do? I didn't get it. It is repeated. For example, my company is having 5 locations, 5 different options with 5 different currencies. Based on the individual country's production value and based on the individual country's target achievement. There is a budget. For example, India, the targeted achievement was underachieved. Or Germany, the target achievement is overachieved. Based on the country wise, there will be merit budget. What to say merit percentage allocation? In most of the larger companies, they do that. How you will tell the Workday to pull out such plan details. For example, I'm saying like the maximum merit percentage for India is 3%. Or an average merit percentage is 3% by default. And for German employees, the average merit percentage is 5%. How we are going to pull that plan? See, normally how this happens is like talking about if you have this for 5 different locations within a country or maybe outside the country, like 5 countries. Talking about the template that we define or designed, right? This is separate for everyone. You wanted to say, like if I'm creating one plan, just like how I said, like supervisor organization for Germany, India, everything with that particular individual performance rating, the system will put and each of the thing will function as the individual business process. It's correct. Everything will work in as per the same process, but talking about the timeline and the plans that you are referring about, right, it will be different in different countries. We never mix all the countries or where we want to segregate anything. We do not mix them. If in case there is no segregation, then we will keep each and everything in one plate, or else we will have a separate place for every item. Now I got it. Thank you. Grid configuration and grid profile configuration will take time. We will continue on this tomorrow. I'm talking about one more thing, right? The how does performance review part that you are referring, right? Like let's take an example. There are performance review template, right? Annual performance. Like normally here we are talking about compensation review process, right? How we are going to give the compensation part with respect to the performance that has been done by the respective worker. Normally this is how or this is where it gets linked. At this stage of compensation review template, we can define the template. We can define the rating scale, whatever the rating scale that we have set up over here. There might be a scenario like for different countries. They have different rating scale as well, right? Whatever options we have, we set it up accordingly. Exceptions rule. If in case I want to exclude. Let's take an example. You are talking about India, right? And you want to exclude some group of people with respect to either promotions or whether you want to override or anything. Wherever you have exceptions, like normally, what happens is you might have already seen multiple such scenarios, right? Whenever we are running the competition review process, right? Let's take an example for once, a specific organization, right? Normally, in that scenario, there are many exceptions that comes into picture, whereas in some places we do the overrides, right? Each and everything comes into picture with respect to the eligibility rule. Here you have to define the eligibility rule, like which group of people, right? You want to allow the override. For example, if the compensation review process is for Netherlands and only for a supervisory organization like finance department. Here are the eligibility rule. I'm creating the process itself only for the finance team. And also that is also only for the Germany kind of thing. And that is my templates. Nomenclature also. And here my eligibility rule will be the job position. And also the reason, right? See this. Let's take an example. You mentioned about this compensation review process is only specific to Germany, only for finance department. I will use that respect to organization at the initial stage. Like this for this organization, it is within that organization I might have some group of workers, right? Wherein I want to do some override with respect to merit, some override with respect to promotion, override with respect to lump sum, right? Override with respect to bonus plan or stock plan or any other plan. Therein we can set up, I might have only one worker. I'll create an eligibility for that one worker. Creating eligibility for one worker is nothing, but you can just mention employee name or employee ID. You can mention the employee ID. And for that specific worker, whatever you want to have as an override, you can set it up. Like you have, let's say like technology team, I'm going to have 3000 employees only in technology. In technology, say like there can be a technical specialist. There can be a QA analyst and there can be a full stack developer, senior engineer and principal engineer, staff engineer. There can be different positions. In such cases, can you just scroll towards your right? Towards your left. I'm sorry. In such case, let's say technology as a department. And if you scroll up a little bit above, because I just wanted to understand if I'm getting it right. A little bit about, please, just to the start. The process name itself, I will create a name itself. Like it is like a merit increase process, and this is for technology team. And this is for Germany. And this is to get me my name under the name star. It is highlighted as red, right? In that I'm putting the nomenclature and I'm defining my process name, effective date, everything. Can you please scroll down a little bit? Now it's a technology by each of the job. As you said rightly, it can be by the job levels in the eligibility rule section. Can you just scroll down a little bit, finally down. In the exceptions rule, I will just say like a filter only. For example, we decided not to do any promotion for managers alone in technology. And the rest of the job levels will be getting the promotion except managers and above or the rest of the managers. For example, the technology team is underdoing and the management board has decided not to give any promotion or increases for manager level and above. And anybody below that alone will be getting the merit increase. In such case, the exception by rule. In that case, I will just add the eligibility rule by job position. And reason can be by rating and adjustment override by the what you'll put for the additional adjustment override, say like compare ratio, or there is one more thing that you can do. The one that I'm talking about, right? We have, like in work week, we have multiple ways of doing the same thing. Either you can do that, or at the initial stage, only you can define like this process template is specific to this group of people. At the eligibility criteria, only you can do that. Normally, this override or exception by rule you can use in other scenarios. Let's take an example. You have a worker, right, who is a part of this compensation review process, but I want to override his promotion data or his lump sum amount few months back or a few months after. Right. I can off cycle increase. That is also, you have an option. You can mention the effective date here. You can define the reason. This will work accordingly. Let's take an example. I wanted like a realistic scenario. I'm not going to do it for one worker because in my organization we group it, we work as a cluster form. There is never a one worker. One worker is a very rare scenario for me. It is always limited to 10 members. Example, if you are put in, for example, in larger organization, if they are doing an off-cycle promotion, right? Like you said, like an ideal example, we will not do in individual cases. We will collect the list of employees for whom the manager, the management, and the supervisory organization has decided. Like not to give him an override his promotion, and from the effective date, say like effective from 1st of October, they'll be getting the promotion. How are the merit increases happening in August? They won't be getting similar increases like other employees in the month of August. One minimum of merit increase they might be getting the rest of, for example, they are deciding like giving them 20% of meditating promotion increase in such first 5% is given as a merit along with everybody. And the rest of them should be given as an off cycle. How I'm going to do here, because that is a very realistic scenario. What I'm doing off cycle is talking about that is in the past or in the future. In the future, let's take two scenarios in the past and in the future. Let's write it that way. If in case that is something in the past, you can use this rule, that will be the best. But if in case you have something in the future, it's better not to include them. For them, you can do an ad hoc, wherein for those group of people you can normally have already shown me, right? Like you can go to the job change and you can do the promotion part. Or in case if it is related to any lump sum or anything, we have that option. Normally I'm telling you from the best practice purpose. That is something which we use. I'm still confused. Let me repeat. You asked me about, there are two scenarios. One is in the past, one is in the future. Talking about for the past related scenarios. You can mention the past date from when you want to consider them. Can you just type an example in this itself? Take an example. To me, why I'm asking you to type here? Because I can remember if it is blank. Manager, let me search on the good manager. Let's manager. Let's talk about a competition manager. I want to like, for example, as of now, here's the days that we have, it's in the past. Let's me consider them like talking about. Let me talk about I wanted to give this worker promotion, not as of the competition review process, whatever data I have defined. I want to give him as of August 1st only, from August 1st only. That's a serious date. I can give some reasons like increase in responsibility. Like, what is the reason why we are giving it? Like, let's take an example of promotion. And I don't want to give them any other changes. If, in case, with respect to this promotion, any bonus is coming into picture that I want to give him as of this effective date or any other effective rate, I can select a bonus or any lump sum amount. If in case only this is the scenario, I can keep that as it is. That's it. Nothing else. If there is a promotion, there is obviously a job portion change and obviously there can be a bonus change by default. Normally what happens is talking about this competition and review process, right? Once this gets initiated, talking about we have another business process that they're in picture. Like talking about like normally, we can have that as well. Competition change business process, we have right. Normally those business process can also come into picture if in case we want that. If in case we do not want that, we can exclude that. Now you're doing it in a futuristic date in a scenario. Let's take an example of future date. Normally it's better for future date. If I want to do, let's take an example. There is a worker job. Can we do an example with a bulk scenario? Because I, as I said before, want to do this for a bulk. And at the later stage, normally we use an EI. Or else you have another option, talking about this compensation review process that we are doing it right. We can create like this is a very global support, right? We can create another one wherein we can include all those specific group of workers for whom I want to do. And I can initiate it in similar way I'm doing for other group of workers. How do you do the structural increase or deferred comp plans? We can also do the separate compensation review template for them. We are just very percentages. Correct? Target percentages. Oh, but it depends. It depends upon like what is the number of workers that is going to be there. If in case it's in single digit, it's normally preferred or done in manual. Like all the managers can go ahead and they can do it through the manual process that is available. I'm not supporting the manual process here because currently why I'm just circling back is my company is looking for all the things in Workday to be automated process. Everything has a nomenclature template. For example, if I'm running the compensation review process, let me ask a scenario. For auto C talking about, let's exclude the compensation review process. What I have seen is like there are some scenarios where they do it separately, where they follow the same process. Like normally what happens is, let's take an example of company wherein they do the compensation increase or they go through the entire compensation cycle once in a year. But there are some group of people, not one maybe. If in case the strength of the employees is around 20,000 or 30,000, and that's there can be hundreds of workers. Or when the promotion of something comes into picture during mid of the year, or in that scenario what happens is the process that we are looking into, right? That is set up for that ad hoc cycle as well. That because for hundreds of workers we cannot do manually. If I hope the review process, you can give it whatever name you want and we can create it. And for only those respective workers, the process will initiate and it will be followed for in a similar way, like we do on an annual basis. Exactly. Wonderful. And this is something I had. And after this, what you'll do? The one as an exceptional rule. What you said is, if I have understood right, the exceptional rule that you show in this particular screen down right. If you scroll down, that is really good. Classic example when you wanted to do for a past thing, past listed data correct. That thing with a past date. But anything on a futuristic, you suggest me to do an ad hoc creation for those employees in a bulk. That's like more accessible, right? And you will. Just what is that something beneath? It's accessible by users granted segment like which all people can look into this. This is with respect to that competition segment security. Like normally, the people who are approving it are the skill. Talking about the content and this review template, right? Who all can access and who all can look into the details. Normally, it will be competition admin or HR admin to whomsoever you need to give the access. And tomorrow's session will discuss in detail about the plans, configure, how this plan section's talking about like what all plans we consider, right? But still, I'll brief you individually, right? Because this is the important one. After that, we have configured pools. I'm going to practice on the stock plans today. I just got a question. I might sound like a noob or I would have genuinely forgotten. Forgive me for that, but I just wanted your quick suggestion. If I'm doing a stock plan, yes, while I create a stock plan, I know how to create a stock plan. Just like how you suggested. Now, if I wanted to edit the existing stock plan, for example, you're an employee and I'm going to promote you to the next job position. Ideally, your stock percentage should be increased. In such case, I need to edit your stock plan. I have to go back to the edit stock plan task and I can do that. It will not impact your resin data and or it'll still remind us of the history of what happened in the past for you. At the same time, I can be able to edit in your existing stock plan itself, right? To see if you remember right. Normally, what you're trying to say is there is a stock plan which is being associated or aligned to one of the workers. He's getting based on that, but what your left thing is there is some changes that you want to do within a stock plan, correct? For that specific worker. And now you are asking, you say, given a wrong stock plan, also more than what is required or less than what is committed for? In this case, I will. You will have an option to correct. You do not need to go and make changes to the stock plan that is already created. What you will do is you will go to the worker's profile and therein you will correct the stock plan. If you remember right, if in case we have not hard coded it, like we have enabled the override option. Right? In the override option, you have an option right. You can make changes based on whatever you want. You can go above the limit that is defined or below the limit, whatever the target amount or whatever the target percentage is. Right? You are not supposed to make any changes in that stock plan. You will make changes at the employee level for that specific employee. I'm talking about, you said someone got assigned to the stock plan incorrectly. That will happen because of the eligibility. If, in case there is a worker who is not eligible for that plan but still is getting eligible, in that scenario, you can go to that stock plan and update the eligibility. That is something you can go ahead and you can do that. For example, you are entitled for 200 psych on bonus as RSAs. By default, I have given you only 150. I need to do a correction of 200. Now that's what I said you right. Let's take an example. Go back to Raj Shahen's profile and I can correct it. correct? Request compensation change. Can you see within the compensation change you will get in case that worker is already having? You can mention the effective rate. Choose the same effective date from when that worker got that plan. After that, you can select that plan. That plan will pop up here. I'm not sure if this worker is having any stock plan. If in case the worker will have this stock plan, right, it will appear here. Like, for example, let's take an example allowance, right? If I want to make changes, I want to make it from 6% to cent or to percent or 1%. Right, I have an option here. You can go to that specific stock plan. You do not have a stock plan, right? Normally, if you would have had the stock plan, you can go in and you can make the changes. No need to go in. Only in one scenario you can go and update the stock plan. Let's take an example by mistake because of incorrect eligibility rule. I also got eligible for the stock plan. In that scenario, you will go and update the stock plan eligibility rule and you will exclude me from that. Now I got it. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.